Welcome to the NICKY OKOYE Podcast.com, and thank you very much for subscribing and downloading our most unique and most powerful material till date, The Entrepreneur Advisor by NICKY OKOYE. Entrepreneur Advisor is one of our series of exceptional, content-filled, empowering, and exhilarating podcasts, designed and produced for the 21st century entrepreneur and business executive wherever they may be on the globe. Dr. NICKY OKOYE, our anchor, is a serial entrepreneur, experienced business executive, and a 30-year veteran of building businesses and funding projects. He has also advised heads of states, presidents, and heads of global conglomerates on 3 different continents of the world, including North America, Europe, and Africa. His efforts at leading a venture from startup conception stage to billion-dollar status in less than 18 months is legendary. The Entrepreneur Advisor podcast series provides our listeners with extensive insight into the latest 21st century strategies for business development, investment capital aggregation, and global market penetration. In addition, NICKY OKOYE tackles the most pertinent issues while providing tactical insight as well as strategic solutions for building sustainable enterprises over the long term. Let's sit back and listen to Dr. Okoye. If you wish to engage Dr. NICKY directly, you can follow him at NICKY OKOYE on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Again, that's NICKY OKOYE on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Advisor. This is episode 3. Thank you all for listening. We're taking you on a strategic journey of development, of strategy, of innovation, of looking completely differently at the entire global market landscape. We're looking at disruptive 21st century business models and advocating strategic solutions to complicated and complex problems. That is what the Entrepreneur Advisor is all about. Last episode, we talked about some of the strategic things that are happening in the disruptive world of e-commerce. I told you about what Walmart is doing in India in order to reposition themselves to answer to the challenge they are getting from Amazon, especially in the US market. Now, the great thing is that even in the United States, Amazon is trying to overhaul their logistics empire. They spent over $10 to $11 billion last year on logistics. And they're looking at logistics again strategically in order to lower that cost. But what Walmart is doing on the continent of the United States and on the North American continent is that they have started embedding platforms within their shopping experience. And these platforms have touchscreen applications that tie the entire Walmart inventory from all over the world right to that platform right there on the storefront. So if you walk into a Walmart store in the United States, at a certain aisle or a certain counter at the end of it, you're going to see a screen and a kind of a vertical touch screen. And that vertical touch screen ties you into its e-commerce platform. That e-commerce platform ties you into Walmart's entire inventory all over the world. So if you come into a Walmart store and you see something you like and they don't have your size or they don't have your color or they don't have something that is exactly what you want, you just go to the screen and make your order and it will be delivered to you from wherever it is in the Walmart inventory anywhere in the world. Or you can ask them to deliver it to the store and then you can pick it up in a day or two. And so Walmart is really trying to answer to the Amazon challenge. And Amazon is also doing its best to meet up to the Walmart challenge. So that's going to be very interesting. But I want to talk about, we talked about the aggregation strategy at the last episode. And I also want to talk about a leadership strategy that entrepreneurs and businesses are going to be using in the 21st century to dominate in their business space and to overcome challenges and complex problems within your business environment or in your particular industry. I also want to talk about the drive and the commitment to innovation. Now, looking at the aggregator strategy, we talked about this last week and the last episode a little bit, but three major industries come to light: the entertainment industry, the transportation industry, and the hospitality industry. Now, what is it that is so exciting about these three industries, and what is the solution that some entrepreneurs have brought to the fore and have extracted tremendous amount of value from these industries just because they have an aggregator strategy? In entertainment, the first word or the first company that comes to mind is Spotify. Another company that comes to mind is Pandora. What is Spotify doing in the entertainment industry? Well, so Spotify has aggregated all the artists in different aspects of music and provided that on the Spotify platform that you can stream from anywhere you are. Pandora does something similar, and there are quite a number of other applications. iTunes is doing the same thing. Now, but that's entertainment. Then look at transportation. Again, an aggregation strategy applied by Uber, where you are able to take advantage of car sharing, car riding, drivers who are not typically taxi drivers in the past, providing their cars, coming with their cars, and customers from all over the place are booking on this application. You have Uber, you have Lyft, you have Taxify. Again, this is an aggregation strategy. What does it do? It aggregates cars and drivers and puts them in touch with customers. Look at the hospitality industry. Airbnb, the same approach, aggregating hotel rooms, providing customers access to hotel rooms or to bed and breakfast rooms all across the world. Then you have other companies doing the same thing: Priceline, Expedia, all these other, vacation companies or transportation enhancement, if you will. Vacation enhancement and hospitality enhancement applications are kind of doing that same aggregation. So these three industries are easily using the same strategy, which I call the aggregation strategy. It's all about sharing. Which means they are sharing. They're giving the platform to customers in an opportunity for those customers to either share the experience in case of a car, or share the accommodation in case of a bed and breakfast or a house, or share the music platform in case of a streaming service, Spotify, Netflix, and so on. Now, if we look at the finance industry, which I didn't mention amongst the three industries that I want to call your attention to, is that the finance industry has been doing this aggregation for a while. And so a lot of the, what I call fintech, financial technology companies that are providing payment solutions like PayPal or Alipay and a few other companies like that, Braintree and so on, these folks have carved a niche within the payment system marketplace. They were not there when Visa and MasterCard dominated the credit card industry. But because they came with an aggregation strategy, they were able to carve out some aspect of financial payments and own it, in spite of the fact that Visa and MasterCard are still in business, still issuing credit cards, and still partnering with banks, airlines, hotels, and so on and so forth, using Visa MasterCard platform to issue credit cards or to issue debit cards, which are accounts that are tied directly to your bank. So in the financial space, the aggregation strategy hasn't yet panned out. We don't yet know who the winner is, because a lot of exciting things are still going to happen there. But I wanted to call your attention to entertainment, transportation, and hospitality, and then ask you a question. What other industries are out there that have not yet had an aggregation strategy applied to its business model? What other industries are out there waiting for us to come up with an aggregation strategy, a sharing formula that would create the kind of wealth and value that Uber has created, that Airbnb has created, Spotify has created, Netflix has created in their respective industries? Think about it. So talking about leadership strategy, the first thing I want to do is understand leadership strategy. And now I would like to look at leadership strategy typically from different perspectives. The first area you must take into consideration is that of geography. Now, you cannot apply the same leadership strategy in North America that you are going to apply in Africa. You cannot apply the same leadership strategy in Europe that you're going to apply in Asia. People are different. The cultures are different. The experiences are different. And so if you were a leader that has done extremely well in the United States, the chances of you using those same strategies, applying the same logic, applying the same processes and procedures in Africa, you might not succeed. And so I believe strongly that leaders and entrepreneurs and business executives that are being asked to take over operations that are outside their typical comfort zone or area of expertise, area of experience, there is a need for them to fully understand the cultural environment they're getting into, because that would typically and most extensively affect their ability to succeed as a leader in that new environment. There are other areas that apply to leadership strategy, but one of the questions I like to ask is, if you are given the responsibility to head up a corporation, a project, anywhere in the world, I like to use Africa as an example, but you've been given that responsibility, or you've created the responsibility yourself. You're the founder. You set up this new business. You've just received $100 million of funding. Now, what would you consider your most strategic element? What is the most strategic area of implementation that you will go after? And I'll give you some choices. Now, the first is innovation. Is innovation your most strategic? And if it is, why? Remember what I said about the cultural implications and the cultural areas of the geography: North America, Africa, Europe, Asia, even Australia. How do these cultures and these environments affect your ability to choose innovation as your most strategic resource or your most strategic implementing task or agenda? Number two, customer service. If it is not innovation, is it customer service? Are the customers your most important, your most strategic stakeholder group? Or are they the most strategic element that you will go after in order to win business, in order to be sustainable, in order to grow your enterprise? Number three, capital. We all know that capital is considered the lifeblood of business. So, is capital your most strategic resource? When you look at capital against customer service, look at capital and customer service against innovation, which would you choose? Number four, strategy. Remember that strategy brings it all together. You must have a plan. You must have a strategy. If you don't have a strategy, remember what they say, that if you're not planning to win, if you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail. That's strategy. So is strategy the most important? And that's number four. Number five, personnel. Having the right personnel, having the right people in the jobs that are expected to deliver on your business model, deliver on your mandate. So are people the most important? Your personnel. So 1, innovation. 2, customer service and customers. 3, capital, access to investment. 4, strategy. 5, people. And number 6, market access. Do you have access to a market? Without a business, without a market, you cannot have a business. So, I've given you 6. Which is your most strategic element? I can't give you the answer because this is an answer that will depend very seriously on the geographical area that you are operating or you intend to operate. Because in North America, United States, for instance, there is a huge influence that innovation has on the marketplace. Many of the companies that have succeeded in this 21st century is as a result of their ability to innovate. And the only reason why innovation has come to the top in the United States is because capital is taken for granted. There is so much capital in the United States that some people with some of the most lousiest ideas are getting funded. So they've taken capital for granted. They've taken people and personnel for granted because they have some of the best schools in the world are in the United States. Market access is also taken for granted somewhat because market penetration strategies in the United States are almost like a commoditized affair right now because people pretty much understand how to penetrate specific markets. So if innovation is number 1 in the United States, innovation might not necessarily be number 1 in Africa, because African entrepreneurs and African businesses are still struggling with access to capital. They're still struggling with market penetration. And believe it or not, many African businesses haven't yet figured out customer service, how to treat their customers. So that's some food for thought for you. But I want to call your attention to Forbes did a recent study. Forbes is the international finance magazine. And they did a study in association with Just Capital. And the study was on about 962 American companies. These are companies that are listed, especially on the New York Stock Exchange. And they're trying to figure out what these companies are the best companies in the world under 5 categories. Because according to them, you can be delivering the best shareholder value, the best returns on investment to shareholders. But what if you have a lousy workers and lousy treatment of your workers? What if the community where you reside, where your plants are, hate you and are always looking to undermine your efforts? What if you're dumping toxic waste in the environment? What if you treat customers in a lousy way? So they used 5 criteria, and they said under worker treatment, so how you treat your workers, how you treat your personnel, customer treatment, how you treat your customers, community treatment, how you engage with your community, environmental treatment, so how you treat the environment, and then shareholder treatment, which is how you treat your shareholders. And they rated all these companies. Most of them, like I said, 922 companies. And these are the largest publicly traded companies in the United States. And Microsoft came number 1. Number 3 was Apple. Nvidia was number 2. Intel number 4. Salesforce number 5. Alphabet number 6. Anthem number 7. PayPal number 8, P&G number 9, and VMware number 10, Cisco 11, Intuit number 12. Very interesting, but the names and the categorization went all the way to 100. And you'll be surprised that some companies were there, way down on the list. T. Rowe Price number 62, Capital One 69, JP Morgan 70, Bank of America 71. It's incredible. UPS 91. So they're way down on the list. And you have GE, General Electric 97, United Health 94, Marriott is number 100. Now, it was an interesting study. I read it extensively because it gave an impression as to what companies consider the most valuable resource, the most valuable stakeholder, and where they place this value and what they do to show that this is what they value. And you'll be surprised at some of the results that came out in that study. So I want us to keep that in mind as we're building global businesses, as we're building value across the world. Let's understand what it takes to keep stakeholders in tune with our direction. Now, remember I talked about market penetration. Now, having a strategy to penetrate a market is extremely valuable. And market penetration strategy can come from different perspectives. First of all, you need a local market penetration strategy, assuming you're operating locally or you're an international business that wants to operate in a local environment, then you're going to need a local content strategy. So there's a market penetration strategy that has a local content aspect to it. Then you might want to be penetrating on a continental level. So there's an Africa strategy or a North America strategy or a European strategy or an Asian strategy, as the case may be. Each of these geographical areas will lend itself to different kinds of strategies or different kind of applications, as the case may be, and also depends on this particular industry or product and service that you are expecting to use to penetrate that environment. But one of the most exciting strategies that was brought to bear in the 21st century is the global supply chain. And the global supply chain is a strategy that allows global companies to identify suppliers in markets across the world and to order those products almost on a consistent basis, so under term contracts, and have all those products to a central location where it's all put together, it's all assembled as one product. Almost every industry operates a global supply chain model, from aviation, even in making planes, where Airbus is ordering, the wings from Japan and the engines from the UK and so on and so forth. Even in the computer industry, motherboards are coming from Mexico and screens are coming from China and so on and so forth. And so global supply chains apply as a penetration strategy in almost every industry. So if you are a manufacturer of a component in a finished product, your job is not to go to the market and start advertising on TV or newspapers. Your job is to look for the folks who are building that particular product, the end product, and then tie into their global supply chain. So that's a specific strategy for those kind of companies. I don't think there are too many African companies that have taken advantage of the global supply chain as a penetration strategy for market. So we have a lot of African producers who are producing finished goods, if you will. And so they are the ones doing all the buying from different components. And most of this component buying they do is international in nature. So it fuels the importation bill of many African countries. So I would have flipped that strategy if I were in charge, whereby I would encourage African manufacturers to start producing components of the parts of finished products. So components of vehicles or components of computers, components in the aviation, and so on. And then sell those components into a global supply chain of one of these global companies. Another market penetration strategy that I would like to highlight is the value chain intelligence. I'm going to give you a more detailed description of value chain intelligence in future podcasts, but value chain intelligence pretty much means that the value which is the finished product or finished service of any particular product, there can be component values addition provided or supplied by different suppliers. So if you wanted to be part of a value chain in a particular service or product, then your goal would be to tie into its aggregated value chain intelligence network. And I will go into a more detailed description of this in a podcast in the future. So if you don't really get it, don't be too mad. My next podcast or the next one after that, I'm going to go into value chain intelligence. It's a very interesting concept, and I think it will be extremely valuable for producers in Africa and in the Caribbean and even in South America. Now, before we conclude this third episode of the Entrepreneur Advisor, I just want to remind you that you can ask me questions. Go to @NICKYOKOYE.com or at Nicky Okoye Instagram, at Nicky Okoye Facebook, at Nicky Okoye Twitter, at Nicky Okoye LinkedIn. So all the social media handles are the same at Nicky Okoye. Nicky Okoye is NICKYOKOYE. And I do love the questions, and I always answer them on the podcast. Last week we talked about the $1.5 trillion student loan challenge, which is weighing down quite a number of U.S. students. This $1.5 trillion is for the United States students alone. It looks huge. The average loan amount, as I said last week, was $37,000. I got a couple of interesting suggestions. One person asked me to look at getting these students to work for 1 to 2 years as interns for free. If we could suggest that to the authorities, and within the 1 to 2 years, they should be able to work out the $37,000, and then by the third year, they're debt free. So that's an idea. I like that idea. It could pay off the student loan if we could get enough companies to take on the millions of students that represent the $1.5 trillion student debt. But I have an idea as well. My personal idea is this. Can we get the schools and the financial institutions to come together to restructure this debt? So if we can get a number of financial institutions, 1.5 trillion is a lot of money. So maybe 10 or 20 mega financial institutions can take this on. And you can issue a structure, issue a new paper, a new kind of commercial paper or new kind of commercial transaction with each student, whereby you're giving them the opportunity to pay off this debt over their lifetime. Pay off the debt over the lifetime. Now, that sounds, like, gonna have debt all my life. No, I'm talking about a 30-year commitment. So if a student graduates at 25, students normally graduate between 20 and 25. If you slap on 30 years to that, 30 plus 25, by the time they're done, they'll be 55. So yeah, it looks like a lifetime. However, what are we talking about? Let's use the average. $37,000 is your debt. If we apply $37,000 over 30 years, that comes to $1,233 a year. $1,233 a year. Now that means all you need to pay every year is $1,233. That also means that all you need to pay every month is $102. $102 a month, and you pay off your debt. That means all you need to pay every single day is $3.40. It's almost negligible. It is cheaper than a cup of coffee at Starbucks, depending on which coffee you're ordering. So if we could get students to pay $3.40 a day, price of a cup of coffee. The debt becomes almost insignificant and negligible. And this is a brilliant concept, brilliant idea. I think we should take this to the authorities. Thank you for listening to the third episode of Entrepreneur Advisor. And I'll look forward to hearing from you at nickyokoye.com on all the Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn handles. And we will do this again next week. Understand that we're looking at strategic opportunities in the 21st century, disruptive 21st century business models, advocating strategic solutions to complicated and complex problems. Thank you very much for listening. See you next time.